This is Brandon Jones with the University of Cincinnati and Northwestern University. In this lecture, we're going to talk about using Google Maps in Android, and specifically using Google Maps in the Android emulator. That's correct, using Google Maps in the Android emulator. At the time of this recording, I have taught Android classes for almost 5 years, and using Google Maps has been frustrating because a lot of people want to use it in their apps. A lot of people writing Android apps wish to use Google Maps. And until recently, you could not use Google Maps in the emulator, at least not easily. But that's all changed with the very latest release of the Android SDK. SDK level 19, that's the number I use, or 4.4.2, also known as KitKat. I tend to go by the SDK number 19 there. But in any case, as of SDK 19, you actually can use Android Maps in the emulator. I found that there was not a whole lot of material on this subject when I was preparing for a lecture recently. It was kind of hit or miss. What you would find on forums, what you would find on YouTube videos and the like. So I decided to put together everything that I learned while I was getting ready for one of my classes and put it in this video. You certainly can use maps in the emulator, but there are several things you have to do. And you have to make sure that you have all of these items coordinated, and that's what we'll discuss today. This will more than likely go over what I would consider a good amount of time for one video. Usually I like to keep videos to about 20 minutes or 30 minutes at the most. So this will likely be one in a series of videos. This video in particular will be talking about setting up the Android environment. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a project that I've been using in several of my lectures so far. And by the way, a lot of times I get emails where people are confused. Where's this project? What are the other lectures that you have? If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I have a playlist, and that playlist puts things in relative order. A lot of these lectures in order, although to be honest with you, a lot of the lectures don't have to be viewed in any order. But the source code that I'm going to use is freely available on GitHub. My username on GitHub is DiscoSpiff, DISCOSPIFF. That is an old term from Radio Shack if you're curious, but nonetheless, that was many years ago. I worked there at a store. So in any case, I'm going to be looking at the project called 14SS Plant Places, and let me look at history here, and we'll try and get, there we go, last commit. Okay, you see this is the commit that I'm currently using. Refactor exceptions is the name of that commit. So after this video, I will probably make other videos, and those other videos will probably have other commits. But if you want to start at the same point where I am, take a look at this commit 8ACD08B2EA, but honestly, I will, after I'm finished with this video, this series of videos, I will commit my work, and you're welcome to use that as well. This is all freely available. Okay, what do we need? First of all, we have to make absolutely certain we are on what is today the latest version of the SDK and the emulator. So that's the Android SDK level 19, also 4.4.2 if you prefer that number, also known as KitKat. We have to make sure that our AVD is up to date. And I will tell you from experience, I strongly recommend using the Intel HAXM emulator. That's a lot of information for this video, though. I do cover that in a different video. If you search my channel for the Intel HAXM, it will tell you how to set that up because it's not necessarily straightforward. In any case, how do we know if we have these things? Well, we're going to go into Eclipse, and I've started a brand new workspace here. And then what we're going to do is click on the Android SDK Manager. I do have that already loaded from a different version of Eclipse. And here's the SDK Manager. We take a look in the SDK Manager, and what we want to see is Android 4.4.2 API 19. Note what I have installed, the SDK platform. You probably also want to get the samples for the SDK because there is, and I don't recall if it's in this exact package, but there is a really good example that does use maps in an emulator. The ARM image, the Intel image, and this one's important if you're using the Intel image. If you're using the Intel image, also grab this, which is also new, the Google API x86 system image. That's new in Android 4.4.2, but it's very important. It allows us to run this Intel image for our emulator, for our Android virtual device, and it allows us to run the Google Play libraries on that emulator. Up until this point, those two are mutually exclusive. We could either run the Intel emulator or we could run the Google APIs on an ARM emulator. We couldn't run both. That's significant because if you are on an Intel-based processor and you do have the Intel HAXM installed, your emulator will go much, much faster than if you're using a traditional emulator without that HAXM installed. And with the addition of this x86 system image, now you can run the Google Play libraries on that Intel HAXM emulator. I use those two together right now, and I would be much slower if I did not. So I strongly recommend making sure these two are installed. You see I have several other things installed here. Generally a good idea. I don't know what the Android Wear ARM, I haven't needed that, but all of the others I've grabbed and I recommend grabbing at least for this Android 4.4.2 API 19. In practice, I found it takes a long time to download this stuff. So if you haven't downloaded it, go ahead and start getting it now. It will, then go get yourself a diet caffeinated soft drink or whatever you wish, because it typically does take a while. As well with downloading those, you want to be sure that you download the Google Play services down under Extra, okay? And you see I have version 15. Probably also a good idea to get the Android support library because we're going to be getting those. So as I look now, I updated this just 2 weeks ago already. Looks like there are new updates available, but nonetheless, the versions I'm on give us enough information to work on this demo. So those are the prerequisites. Of course, you also need to have Eclipse installed, at least for the demo that I'm doing, you need Eclipse. Need to know a little bit about Java, the normal prerequisites, but these are the things that we want to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go back to Android. Now, if you want to use what I have on GitHub, a good way to do that is to go to this clone URL, hit copy, okay? So right down here, go to this copy to clipboard, and then what you can do is you can choose File, Import, in Eclipse, Get Projects from Git. Now there's a little difference here. What you would do is hit Clone URI, and then paste that URI in here, and then follow the prompts. I have already done that because this project is on my local computer. I have already done that. I don't need to do it again. So I'm going to go to local repository, but this is where you and I are going to have a difference. You want to go to clone URI, I'm going to existing local repository. I choose next, and I have to do a little magic here to let it know where to find my local copy of that project. And the local copy is, in this case, C users Jones B Git 14SS plant places. And then I'm going to choose finish. Okay, and I'm going to choose next. And everything looks good here. The only thing I really need here is this plant places 14SS. I choose next, and I choose finish. This is, if this is the first video you've seen, this is kind of a mock-up of an actual app I have called Plant Places Mobile. Okay, Plant Places 14SS. So this is our basic project. What we need to do now, I'm going to run back to our presentation. We need to add the Google Play library to our workspace. We need to add the Google Play library to the workspace. Download the library using the SDK manager. We've just walked through that part. Import the Google Play library as a project. That's what we're going to do. In your project, add a reference to the Google Play library. And the slides on this presentation take us through step by step, but we're going to do that all together in just a moment. So we've already done step 1. We are now going to work on step 2, which is import the Google Play library as a project. Now the library, the Google Play Services library, is typically under the Android SDK directory. So before we do anything, it's a good idea to go to Windows Preferences and then choose Android and see where your SDK library is located. In my case, C Programs, Android, Android SDK, and I choose Cancel. Now I'm going to choose File, and I'm going to choose New Project, and I'm going to choose Android project from existing code, and then Next. Root directory, I'm going to go ahead and paste in the C Programs Android SDK, choose Browse, and of course that did absolutely nothing for me. So we're going to go down to, so we'll go manual, there we go, C Programs Android SDK. Expand on that, choose Extras. Under this, choose Google. What if you don't see Google? Well, in that case, go back to the step we had previously where you go to that SDK manager and download the Google Play Services library. That's what puts this folder here. If you don't see this folder, that's what you're missing. Choose Google, Google Play Services, and OK. And let's see, all we need is this Google Play Services lib. I can undo all the samples. Probably would be better if I had chosen only, okay. Okay, not too bad. Okay, so all we need to select is the Google Play Services lib, and then I'm going to choose Finish. Sit back, relax, enjoy some diet caffeinated soft drink. And we'll let it import. Okay. After we do that, what we need to do is we need to add a reference to the Google Play Services to our project that we are building. So I have screen captures here of each step we're going to need to go through. And finally, we're going to need to make a change to our Android manifest. Let's do that next. Whoops, wrong one, sorry. So what I need to do is right-click on my project, the project I'm creating, and it's a bit off screen here, but I'm going to choose Properties, and then I'm going to choose Android. And again, forgive me for a second as I squish this up so it fits on our screen, and we scroll down. And you see library here. I choose Add, and I choose Google Play Services lib, and I choose OK, and I choose Apply, and OK, and we're good. We're almost good. What I need to do next is I need to add something to our manifest. I need to add this exact tag that you see right here. I need to add this exact tag that we see right here. So I'm going to copy. And I'm going to go back to my Plant Places 14SS. I'm going to go into the Android manifest. And I'm going to go to the XML view. And within the XML view, I'm going to go to the application tag. Let me Control M so we can watch this in high def. Within the application tag, just outside of any of the activities, I'm going to put this metadata tag verbatim, as you see here. Now, here's one thing that's very interesting. You see Android value here, and it's set to basically a reference. Leave that as it is. That reference, in a very strange way, is actually defined in the Google Play Services lib. So this project that we've imported, if you go to Res, and then you go to Values, and then you go to Version, you will see the value that matches up to that parameter. And here we go, Google Play Services version, the version I'm using, 4242000. Okay, now let's say, and I'm walking you through here some of the pitfalls that I found when I was setting this up as a demo. One of them is this. Let's say that you put this in, you put this metadata tag in, and you get a red line that says that Google Play Services version is not defined. But you know that you do have a Google Play Services lib set up in your Eclipse project. But you're still getting a red line here that says Google Play Services version not defined. What I found is in some older copies of the Google Play Services lib project, it did not have that parameter set up. So the fix to that, if you have a red line here under this metadata tag, the fix to that, go to the SDK manager, this guy right here, update your Google Play Services lib. You might need to close and re-import it. I don't recall if I had to do that or not. Okay, so add the Google Play ID to the manifest. That's the next step. Okay, now Maps version 2, Maps v2 in Android is a fragment. And many times when we have a fragment, we're pulling it in with a fragment activity. Okay, we're pulling it in with a fragment activity. So to get a fragment activity, we have to add a support library. Now I'm going to show you the way not to do it, which is the way I used to do it. What I used to do is right-click on my project, go to Build Path, Configure Build Path, And then I would go to libraries, add external jar, and actually it's funny, there it is right there. I would have a jar like this set up, Android support v4. But here's the problem. While that jar does have the support libraries I need, the things like fragment activity that I'm going to need for my project, take a look. It's hard-coded to C programs Android, Android SDK, extras, Android compatibility v4. It's hard-coded to a path, which means if I commit this to GitHub and then I pull it down on a different computer, the other computer probably isn't going to have that same path. This is going to give me a red X, which is going to prevent my project from building. That's not going to work for us. So let me remove this. You won't have to do this, but that's the wrong way to do things. Now let me show you the right way. The right way is to right-click on the project, choose Android Tools, and then choose Add Support Library. Make sure you're internet connected at this time because it might actually download it. Also make sure that you have write access to the directory where it will download. I found both of those to be a problem. At absolute worst case, if that is a problem, go back and do it the wrong way, the way I just showed you. Just add the support library as a library. So I'm going to accept license and I'm going to choose install. This will give me another chance to enjoy some diet caffeinated soft drink. This might take just a moment, so I'll pause the recording. And we're all set. Once again, the PowerPoint presentation walks through this step by step, or you can just rewind the video. Next thing, we need some permissions. I have them here on this slide. Naturally, once I commit this presentation, they'll also be on GitHub. Permissions will go in our Android manifest. So let's go to the Android manifest, and we could add them manually with the permissions tab, but since I'm in XML, I can just copy and paste. So I Control M and use this permission. Some of these I probably already have here. We don't need to be redundant. Access network state, I do not. Internet, I do. We're going to take that out. Write external storage, looks like I don't have that. And read GS services, look like I don't have that. So this uses permission is what will prompt you when you download an app to say, hey, the app is requesting each of these permissions. We want to ask for exactly the permissions that we need, no more, no less. We don't want to be too intrusive, but we want to make sure that we're asking for at least the permissions that we need. Okay, and we save. The next part is getting the Maps API key, and I'll tell you this is probably the most frustrating of all. So again, I'll try to go through this carefully. Let's take a look at what we need to do to get an API key. To get an API key, we're going to go to code.google.com/apis/console. This is one of those pages that used to be easy to find. Now it's a bit more challenging to find. I usually have to search around quite a bit. So I will put this URL in the notes in the PowerPoint presentation. And if I remember properly, I will also put the notes in the YouTube comments. So what we need is we need a package name, and we also, package name here, and we also need the SHA1 fingerprint. How do we get the SHA1 fingerprint? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our application, right-click, choose Android Tools, and choose Export Signed Application. I'm going to warn you this isn't going to work right away. We're going to get this weird build error that we didn't have before. And the build error is telling us that our strings.xml is invalid. This is relatively new. This is from a newer version of Android. I'm not sure what introduced it, but in any case, what we need to do is we need to add a couple attributes to tell the strings XML that we're not going to translate each value. We need to add this XML and S tools, and tools ignore missing translation. Copy this, go back into strings XML and paste. Okay, so let me do this Control M so we can watch it in high def. And what we're saying is it's warning us here that we haven't translated these strings into each language that we support. We're just telling it ignore that. So I'm going to choose Save. I'm going to choose Project Clean. I'm going to say Clean Selected Projects below. Okay. And we'll give that a second to refresh. Once it refreshes and it cleans the build errors, what we can do next is we can ask for that API key. We can ask for the SHA1 fingerprint. So we have to get the SHA1 fingerprint of our app, and we have to register it on that console where we have registered our API key. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click, I'm going to choose Android Tools, Export Signed Application Package. Okay, Plant Places 14SS. And these are the same steps we would go through if we're creating an APK to distribute. Location, we need to pick the debug key store in this case. If you're going to actually release an app, you don't want to use a debug key store. But for our app, while we're debugging, debug key store is just fine. So I choose debug key store, I choose open. The password is Android. And by the way, the debug key store is usually under the .android folder. So look for that if you're looking for your debug key store, and note that the .android folder is not the same as the Android SDK folder we saw earlier. So look under your user directory. As you see, mine here is under C users Jones B. If you don't see it there, you might want to search for .android or debug key store. Now these are the steps we would go through to create an APK to distribute. We're just doing this to find that SHA1 key. For use existing key, choose Android debug key. Okay, password again, Android, all lowercase, and choose next. Destination APK file. This is where the APK file will go that this process will create. And in theory, you could distribute this APK file if you were using a legitimate key store. We're not worried about that. We're just using this as a tricky way to get this SHA1 fingerprint. You see, this SHA1 fingerprint starts with 2A, and then A3, ends with 83, and then E7. So what I'm going to do is I don't actually need to create the APK, I just need this SHA1 fingerprint. I'm going to copy the SHA1 fingerprint. I'm going to go back to the Android API. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say edit allowed apps. Now this assumes we've already hit generate new key. You see, I'm working with an existing key I already have. Okay, if you don't have this existing key, if you don't have one, just go to this page, API access, code.google.com/API/console, and choose generate new key. I already have a key. I'm just adding another application to the key. So what I would do here is choose edit, and then add edit allowed Android apps. And then what I could do, Control V, whoops, sorry. Oh, I didn't get my SHA1 key there, did I? Okay. Okay, let me clean up a little bit here. Okay, we'll try that one more time. I'll go ahead and pause the video since you've already seen me do this. Okay, I enter a new line, Control V. There's that SHA1 fingerprint, semicolon. And this is important, we need this part as well. After the semicolon, I'm going to go back to my manifest file, and I need to associate this SHA1 key with the package we see at the very top of our manifest file. The package, the value of the package attribute of the manifest root file. So I'm going to copy com.plantplaces.plantplaces14ss. I'm going to paste that after the SHA1 and a semicolon. Make sure you have all of this together in the Android key for API project. Make sure you have the SHA key, semicolon, and then the package name that's listed in your Android manifest, and choose update. Okay? You see I have a couple of other debug apps that I've used here. That's the idea. This is what we need. Next, what I can do is I can take this API key. This API key is good for all of these SHA1 fingerprints and all of these packages that I've registered with it. So I can use the same API key across multiple apps if I want. So I'm going to take this API key, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to use that now. I'm going to add that entry to my Android manifest. Now I need to copy and paste this in two parts. So I'm in my Android manifest. I'm going to paste the key just as plain text just for a moment. I need to put that in a meta tag. The easiest place to find the meta tag is to go back to my PowerPoint presentation and take a look at this metadata tag here. Now what I need to do is I need to copy this metadata tag, but instead of Android:value equals API underscore key, I need to actually put in the API key that I just generated from Google Code. So I go back and I paste this metadata tag, and this is available on the PowerPoint. It's also available out on the internet. One caution, as I look at this, I see that the double quotes are incorrect. So I fix my double quotes. Now I'm going to take the API key, Control X, and I'm going to paste it over this API key placeholder I have. Do a little bit of housekeeping, and we're all set, and save. So at this point, I have included the Google Play library. I have added the support library. I've added a reference to the Google Play library, and I have created the SHA-1 fingerprint for this app's key store. I've associated that SHA-1 fingerprint with this app's package name as well on the Google Play API access page. Now I'm taking that API key that associates the debug.keystore fingerprint with the package name. I'm taking that API key and I'm pasting it into my Android manifest. The reason why I need to do this is when my app requests a Google map, it's going to send up this API key. Okay? Google is going to take that API key and verify that it matches with the SHA-1 fingerprint for this app and the package name. Here's a caution. Here's something I ran into when I was working with this myself. If those don't match, if you have the wrong API key, or if you have not registered your SHA-1 fingerprint with your API access, or if you don't have the right package with your API access, what will happen is your application will compile. Okay, your application will compile, it will deploy. It will go to render the map, and all the controls will appear, but you won't get any images. You won't get any geographic images. You'll just get a gray screen, and there won't be any error telling you what's wrong. So it's one that's really hard to debug if you don't know what you're looking for. If you're getting that blank screen, the first thing to look for is, did you set up the API key properly? Is it associated with the right key store? If you've gone to production, are you using a production key store or are you still using a debug key store? Is the package name that's registered in the key store, is the package name registered after that fingerprint the proper package name for this Android manifest? So those are things to look for if you get that gray screen. So one other thing that we want to do is we need to make sure that our Google Maps Android API v2 is turned on. Make sure you have that turned on, and any other services that you want to use, make sure that those are turned on. So we turn on the Google Maps API Android v2. Again, these are things that we want to do. Our program will compile and will run if we don't have this on. It just won't look right. We'll get a gray screen. So we want to make sure that we have that turned on. We want to make sure we have the proper API key in our Android manifest. And we want to make sure that that API key is matched with the SHA-1 fingerprint for our debug key store or whatever key store we're using. After that, we're in pretty good shape. After we've added the key store, we're in pretty good shape, and now we're ready to add a map to our application. Now this video is getting kind of at the point where I want to cut it off. It is getting a little bit long. So I'm going to go ahead and stop and upload this video. In our next video, we're going to actually look at using maps. But this video goes through everything you need to do to your Android environment to set up maps. As always, I welcome your comments and feedback. I'm going to go ahead and commit what I've done so far to Google Code. I welcome your comments and feedback, and feel free to post or comment or email me. Good luck.